Batman vs Superman, Hulk vs Thor, Punisher vs Daredevil. Ever since the dawn of superheroes themselves, writers have always pitted them against each other. But no conflict is as famous or infamous as Marvel's Civil War. This is one of the most iconic bouts in comic book history, not just because it put Iron Man and Captain America against each other, but because it forced everyone in the Marvel universe to pick a side. This was hero versus hero, ideals versus security, freedom versus control. On one side, you've got Tony Stark leading the charge for government oversight after a tragedy puts superheroes under a microscope. On the other hand, Steve Rogers is fighting for the freedom of superheroes and becomes a literal fugitive to protect what he believes in. What starts as a political disagreement turns into an all-out war with betrayal, secret prisons, clones of gods, and friendships shattered. We are the Hive Mind, and today we're breaking down both sides and finally answering the question, who was actually right in Civil War? The first question you're probably asking is how we got to the point where Iron Man was throwing hands with Captain America in the middle of Times Square. It all kicks off with a reality TV show where a group of rookie heroes called the New Warriors are clout chasing, filming themselves taking down villains to boost their ratings. But this time, they bit off more than they could chew. The villain they went after was named Nitro, and he had the power to literally explode himself like a human bomb. And he did just that, right in front of a school. Over 600 people died, including a ton of kids. This caused the public to completely turn on superheroes overnight. That's when the US government steps in with the Superhuman Registration Act. It's basically saying that if you've got powers, you need to register your identity, get trained, and work under the government. If you decide not to, you're a criminal. Iron Man leads the pro-registration side, saying that this is the only way to keep people safe and protect the future of heroes. Captain America says it's a slippery slope to losing freedom and privacy, and he's not about to let the government decide who gets to be a hero. And just like that, the Civil War has begun, with friends, teammates, and the entire Marvel universe caught in the middle. From the jump, Cap was spitting in this conflict. Cap saw the Superhuman Registration Act for what it really was, a means of control disguised as safety. On paper, it sounds good, training heroes, making sure people with powers are held accountable, but in practice, not so much. It means giving up your secret identity to the government, and if you don't want to, you become public enemy number one, with the government even coming after the families of heroes who don't register, by forcing heroes who have registered to expose the identity of their friends. The SRA allowed the government to decide who gets to be a superhero and who doesn't, and Cap's whole point was what happens when the people giving those orders stop being trustworthy. And this isn't just some guy who's new to the game, this is Steve Rogers. The dude fought literal Nazis. He's seen what happened when a government decides it can define what's right and wrong, and force people to comply. He also knows how corrupt the government can be, especially given the fact that prior to this, he found out that the underground organization known as the Secret Empire was in cahoots with the President of the United States. So when the act came down saying register or go to prison, Cap knew what the right decision was. Cap wasn't saying no rules ever. He was saying that freedom matters, that people should have the right to choose what kind of hero they want to be, not get forced into it by fear and politics. And that's why his side had the real heroes backing him, like Daredevil, Black Panther, Luke Cage, and later even Spider-Man, who literally switched sides after realizing Tony's squad had gone way too far. Cap was fighting for the soul of heroism, for the idea that doing the right thing doesn't come from following orders, it comes from standing up when orders are wrong. And in the end, he only stopped fighting because he realized the war was tearing the country apart. He put the mission before his ego, because that's what real heroes do.
So now that Grayson has went over why he thinks Captain America was spitting, let's go over why the actual correct Avenger, Iron Man, was really spitting the whole time. So off rip, we understand that inexperienced heroes led to what happened with the school. Sure, it wasn't the heroes' powers that led to this, but them getting involved in conflict that's above their pay grade, initiated by the use of their powers, directly caused these events to happen. And why do these inexperienced heroes exist? People with powers, specifically the mutants, don't just see powers and then say, I'm gonna be a superhero. The actions of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Daredevil, all these heroes that have been established within the Marvel Universe have inspired the next generation of metahumans to take their powers and become superheroes, which is effectively them acting outside of what the law permits. And if they're able to just use their powers, become superheroes, act outside of the law with literally no restriction, the chances of having inexperienced superheroes in other events like the school massacre become exponentially more likely. So of course Iron Man and the government want to put in some form of restriction to limit the ability for superheroes to come in inexperienced and create scenarios like what we saw in Civil War. And with the way that the bill is structured, real superheroes like the Avengers, who have already proven to have the experience and have already made their identities public, will just practically be unaffected by this bill. So for the superheroes who create the most impact on Earth, the bill does nothing. It's only those who are prone to create scenarios like the school massacre that are going to be affected. So it just makes sense that this would be the side that Iron Man takes.
Tony Stark had good intentions, but by the end of Civil War, Iron Man looked way more like a villain than a hero. He helped build Prison 42 in the Negative Zone, a secret interdimensional prison where unregistered heroes were thrown in without due process. No trial, no jury, just locked up and forgotten. A literal Guantanamo Bay for superheroes. Then Tony's team cloned Thor without his consent and let that clone loose on the battlefield. That fake Thor ended up killing Goliath, one of Cap's allies, and Tony still kept pushing forward like nothing happened. But maybe the wildest thing is that he hired psychotic villains to help enforce the law. People like Venom and Bullseye, who are the same maniacs these heroes spent years locking up, were suddenly a part of Tony's strike team, hunting down his own friends. By the end, Iron Man wasn't leading a cause, he was enforcing obedience. And when the dust settled, he won the war, but lost the trust of almost everyone around him.
So to counter Grayson's points for why Iron Man is wrong and Captain America is right, we have to just look at this holistically and see how pretentious Captain America is being. He is valuing his own moral standards and placing this above every ethical and logical scenario being put in front of him. Because Cap believes superheroes should be above politics, he's ignoring the specific circumstance that they are in. At this point, the public's respect for superheroes is at an all-time low. Johnny Storm got beaten up outside of a club just for being a hero. If you're acting as a hero to protect people, holding what people deem to be their safest option should be a high point of interest for you as their effective guardian. And in this moment, people don't feel safe with superheroes. Respect should be gained from the people by doing what grants them the most safe feeling, which at this point are checks and balances, making sure superheroes are regulated to some extent. This is a crucial part of the Civil War plotline. Captain America, noticing the destruction from the city, literally gives up because he recognizes how they are just fighting for a clash of morals rather than what is in the best interest of the people. Cap was so willing to sacrifice everything in this scenario just to uphold his own moral compass. You have to think about this if it was to happen in real life. We wouldn't sacrifice the well-being of a few select people in very specific scenarios, talking about heroes like Spider-Man, who of course giving up their identity puts them at risk, over even the hundreds of lost lives in the school massacre alone. You have to just look at the big picture, and in this case, the select street-level heroes who would be sacrificing their own identities and putting their safety at risk is a completely logical sacrifice in place of not only the people's respect and safe feelings, but to also regulate and highly trained superheroes so another incident like the school massacre can never happen again.
So Iron Man quote-unquote won, Captain America surrendered. But if you think this was a real win, you weren't paying attention. Cap realized that the fight was tearing the country apart, and even though he still believed he was right, he gave himself up to stop the chaos. But before he could even make it to trial, he was assassinated. Steve Rogers, the heart of the Marvel Universe, shot down on the courthouse steps. After Cap's death, the quote-unquote public Tony was doing all of this for turned on him. Protests erupted against the SRA, but Tony got what he wanted: superheroes under government control. He became the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D., basically replacing Nick Fury. But the cost? The superhero community was fractured. Friends were enemies, trust was gone, and all that peace Tony hoped to create didn't last long. Spider-Man's life got destroyed. He unmasked on national TV to support the act, then switched sides when he realized how far Tony had gone. As a result, villains came after him, his loved ones got targeted, and Aunt May nearly died. And the cherry on top of all of this is that when Peter went to Tony to get some help with May's medical bills, this multi-billionaire said no. It took Jarvis going there and paying for it himself. The Resistance went underground. People like Luke Cage, Daredevil, and the Young Avengers refused to register and had to operate in secret. The X-Men stayed out of the fight, but the message was clear. Being a superhero was no longer just about doing good. Now it was political. And the worst part, everything Cap feared came true. After the Civil War, the government kept tightening its grip. Norman Osborn, the literal Green Goblin, took over national security, literally using the Superhuman Registration Act to make heroes bend to his will. Things got way worse before they got better, and things only got better after Cap came back to life and became the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. The first thing he did was revoke the Superhuman Registration Act.
After discussing all of the Civil War event, after hearing both Grayson's arguments for Captain America and my arguments for Iron Man, let us know down below who you guys think is actually correct within this event. Morally, this is supposed to be a toss-up. Both have good points, both have flaws. But from hearing our perspectives, I'm curious to know what you guys think. If you guys like this style of content, where we argue from different perspectives within one video, please let us know in the comments and show us by leaving a like on the video. Contrary to our name, we do actually disagree on a lot of different topics, and there's a lot of videos that we can make if you guys enjoyed this content style. Subscribe to the channel if you guys enjoy comic content, whether it be animations, character analysis, power scaling, or versus battles. We cover it all. On that note, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.